Hey guys, it's Ben again here with Coyote Outdoors. And every now and then when I find a product that I think is just awesome at what it does and I think would benefit us a lot, I'm going to do a video on it. And this is one of them. I picked this thing up a couple days ago. This is the Ryobi 1 Plus 18 volt forced air propane heater. Now, I paid $99 for this at my local Home Depot. I was just walking through and I seen it on a shelf and I was like, well, yeah, I got to give that a try for $99. Now, what makes this thing really, really cool is that it runs off of your 18 volt batteries and it'll run off of a extension cord. Now, it runs off your 1 pound propane tanks, but like I do, because I do a lot of camping for my truck camper and stuff, I've got the hose that connects to a full-size propane tank that'll adapt onto this, so it could run significantly longer. This thing puts out a ton of heat. I have a garage. It's an insulated garage. It's just a regular 2-car insulated garage. And it took my garage from about 25 degrees to about 65 degrees in about 45 minutes. Now, Ryobi claims that it could run up to 5 hours on an 18 volt battery and a 1 pound propane can. I can tell you, as of right now, I have about 2 hours on the one that's in it, and it still feels like it's got about a half a tank, so that's pretty close. I buy. But when it comes to the batteries, I found, like, I've got this little 1 amp battery, 1.3 amp battery here, and this is the first one I ran it on, and it lasted about 55 minutes on a 1 amp battery, which is 1.3 amp battery, which is pretty good, I think. But I have a lot bigger batteries. I've got 2 amps and I've got 4 amps. I ran it for about another hour and 15 minutes on a 4 amp battery without having to change it out, and that battery's still good. But I like this thing a lot. It's really, really simple to use. I have a bigger version of one of these that it goes on a big propane tank that you plug in, and it's kind of hard to get started. But I'll bring you in a little closer here, and I'll show you how easy this thing is to use. So here, let me bring you in a little closer here. Alright, so I got you guys pulled in a little closer in here. I want you to see how easy this is to use. You just take your 18 volt battery, slap it in the bottom right there. Make sure your propane tank is attached, so that's not too bad. And then all you're going to do is push this on button. This light's going to start flashing. And then you just hold this. And it's actually got a self-igniter in it, which I think is really cool. And you're going to hold this till it stops flashing. And it's running. It's really, really quiet, as you can tell. I don't know if you can even hear it on camera, but it puts out a really, really phenomenal amount of heat for its size and what it is. Like with my old, bigger one, you used to have to hold another button and constantly click an igniter to get it to start. Then you had to continue to hold the pilot button on, and it was hard. It took forever. This thing is so simple and so easy that this is definitely going in my camper with me now, because I really think that something like this would be great for things like putting in a screened-in room or an enclosure when you're camping when it's cold out. I don't think I'd run it in my camper. One is because it does have a little bit of propane fumes to it. And two is it does put out a ton of heat. And in my little camper, I'd probably either A, melt the ceiling, or B, cook myself out of it. But yeah, I mean, I think this thing is great. I'm a diesel mechanic by trade, and I deal with, especially here in Michigan, it's 28 degrees out today. It's cold. But what I could really see myself using this for, too, is like when my diesels won't start. You just go ahead and turn this on, set it in under the truck, and I bet within 20 minutes, you'd be able to start your engines. So that's one of the things I think that this would be really, really good for. But even just if you're working outside or you're sitting around your campsite at night or something and you just want some extra heat, you don't feel like starting a fire, or maybe you're cooking and you just want something blowing on your back, this thing's great. I mean, especially for the size. I mean, you just can't beat the size. I mean, I don't have that huge of a hand, and you can see that this thing is not that big compared to my other turbo heater, which is, you know, 3.5 feet long. But like I said, what I like about this one, and I'll show you guys real quick, is that you can run it off of an 18-volt battery, or you can run it off an extension cord. Let me grab my extension cord real quick and I'll show you. Okay, so to shut this thing off, it's real easy. You just push this and it's off. There's no cool down time, there's nothing like that. This up here does get pretty warm, so if I wouldn't just shut it down and throw it in a case or some clothes or anything on it. But like I said, the other function of this one is you turn it over, you take the battery out, you take an extension cord, and it plugs in right here, right in front of where the battery would go. Same thing, on button, hold this, it's going to ignite. You're going to wait for the light to stop flashing. There you go. And now you're running off an extension cord. Like I said, you can also run it off of a remote tank, because I said you can run this off of another hose to another bigger propane tank. But like if you're somebody out there who does not have Ryobi batteries, but I think just about everybody I know does, or you just run out of power or you don't want to use it, an extension cord is a great second option. And that's why one of the reasons I bought this, because it's their hybrid forced air propane heater. So I said, let me pull you back out here and I'll give you my final thoughts on it. Alright, so here's my final thoughts on this. Just even standing right here in front of it, man, this thing's cooking me, so I'm going to make this quick. Or I guess I could just shut it off. But if you're like me from a cold state and you want something very small, very easy to carry around with multiple different sources of heat, like I said, 18-volt battery or an extension cord. You can run the small propane bottles, a full-size propane bottle. I just think you can't. I mean, I just think you can't beat this thing. Like I said, great for if you have an enclosed room or an enclosed awning, or you want to work in your garage. I said I got a 2-car garage in about 45 minutes. I went from about 25 degrees to about 65 degrees. That's pretty quick. Like I said, I have another one of these. It does it in about 30 minutes, but this one is a third the size, and it takes the small propane tanks, not the big ones. Like I said, you could even run this in your camper. I'd be kind of leery about that because of the it does put off a little bit of fumes. It's not bad, but it does put off a little bit of fumes. But it just puts out so much heat. I mean, standing right here, I mean, it's warm, it's blowing on you, it feels good. But if you put your hand right here, this is a ton of heat. It kind of just comes out and goes up. It doesn't have a ton of force blowing forward, but an amazing amount of heat for how little this thing is, and an amazing amount of runtime for what you get out of it. I mean, it's like $4 or $5 from those little propane tanks. I refill my own off my big propane tanks, but you know, 4 or 5 hours off one of those little ones for $4 or $5, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. Like I said, my final thoughts on it are, for $99, I think it's a great deal and a great purchase for anybody who has to deal in the colder temperatures up here like we do. So yeah, just Ryobi One Plus hybrid 18-volt heater, 15,000 BTUs of heat, 5 hours on a battery, runtime on a battery. So I think that's pretty phenomenal. But yeah, if you think you need an alternative form of heat, it only weighs about 5 pounds, I think it was. What's it say on here? How much does this thing weigh? 8.5 pounds. 8.5 pounds, 3.9 kilograms for this little bitty unit right here. And it takes up no space at all. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. We're a new channel. We're trying to get subscribers. If you like my content, hit the like button. Thank you. You guys have a great day. Bye.